the sergeant pulled me up to the front of the class and said, Lieutenant Laughton, I'd like you to give a 3-minute lecture on the sex life of the inside of a ping pong ball. And at that moment, I wanted the ping pong ball to swallow me up because I had no clue what the hell I was going to talk about for 3 minutes in front of 34 hairy-ass Marines. So I'm Neil Laughton. I describe myself as an entrepreneur and an adventurer. Mm-hmm. I've had careers, you see from the grey hairs, I've been in the workplace for about 35 years. First phase could be described as my military phase. I was a soldier, Royal Marine and Army officer, and then a businessman. A couple of years employment, but struggled with that concept. We can perhaps discuss that later, but ended up kind of forced down the entrepreneurial route. Started my own business. I think I've founded 12 dozen businesses so far. Wow. And I quickly add, not all have been very successful. Some complete failures, some modest successes, and 1 or 2 reasonable successes. And then my latest third of career, if you like, for the last 7 or 8 years, and for the next foreseeable, is in the training and development space. I try and inspire business people and ordinary folk to realize their goals, personal and professional.
Brilliant, interesting. So let's start from the beginning. How did you, or why did you join the forces? Or what was the motivation behind it? Did you just find out from a friend, or did you kind of go, oh, actually, I should do something?
My family had a history of serving in the military, so the DNA came from there. Mm-hmm. But I think it was actually an experience. I remember it vividly. My dad was in the Navy. He was serving on an aircraft carrier. And in those days, the rules were a bit looser. He arrived in a helicopter at my school, aged 11 or 12, and me and 3 of my best mates were whisked away to spend some time with him and the ship's company on the aircraft carrier. But interestingly, it wasn't the Navy that inspired my decision for a military career. It was the Marines who were operating on that commando carrier, whizzing up and down ropes from helicopters on board the ship, and they would disappear off, camouflaged up with cam cream, with guns slung around their shoulders, and I thought that was just really glamorous. And from that moment, I said to myself, I wanted to be a Royal Marine commander.
It's incredible. That's great. So you had clear focus, clear vision of where you were going and what you wanted to do. Luckily,
I do recognise that either that's luck or that's being focused on something to start with. But I managed to follow it through. Suffice to say that actually, personally, I struggled with academia and academics. I was academically challenged. Don't need to go into too much detail. Suffice to say, I dug out a report from the attic the other day, a geography report, and it said Neil is trying very hard but achieving very little, which is slightly annoying because geography was my best subject.
This is interesting though. But do you find that having that kind of sense of focus or drive in business is important, or you just have to get lucky?
A good question. I think you do need a bit of luck, but actually, there's plenty of decent quotes out there that says actually hard work and good strategies and a little bit of experience and knowledge, skill is required in order to be successful in business. So I wouldn't focus too much on wishing for the luck. Make plans and strategies to ensure that you have the best opportunities to succeed with good skills, strategies and experience. But when I was young and having finished, if you like, with the military, I actually came to London. I didn't know what I was really going to do. I knew that I was, at that stage, having spent some time in the military as an officer, I had the confidence. Interesting, I didn't when I was young at school. It developed over time. And I went down the employed route. It just didn't work out for me. I had, I suppose, a bit of bad luck, circumstances. One company I worked for, the chairman was a fraud, was about to be put into prison, decided to commit suicide. The company went into liquidation. I lost my job. Next one, the directors I was employed by just didn't take the business seriously. They were off playing golf and spending the company's money on fast cars and showing off. Company went into receivership. I lost my job. And the third and final employment experience was pretty shocking. I was in the construction industry. I was sales and marketing manager. Very successful 18 months as the sales and marketing manager, working directly with the chief exec. When I joined it, it was $1 million turnover. 18 months later, when I was responsible for sales and marketing, we had an order book of 15 million. Great growth, amazing growth. What I didn't realize is that the CEO's best friend wanted my job.
Oh.
And after 2 years, I was brought into his office, interview without coffee, P45, Neil, it's not working out. Off I went, absolutely shell-shocked. And it was that moment when I realized that, putting my faith in my industry, my hard work, my skills and experience that I'd learned, for me, at that moment, I thought, it's not working. What to do? Change strategies. I'll work for myself. I'll form my own company. In fact, I set up a company in competition with that last business that I worked for. And, it turned out to be a good decision.
Very interesting. So it was born out of need, out of desperation,
yeah.
Self-preservation, sort of,
survival.
Yeah, survival.
For sure.
Interesting. So a lot of people watching this will be at different stages of their career. Some will be CEOs, people who are making very important decisions on the spur of the moment. There'll be others who are actually making that big leap of going, actually, I should start something. Very much where you were, for all sorts of reasons. So are there any 3 pro tips from your personal or professional life that you would give people who are going into that unknown journey or big leap of faith?
Well, fun enough, in the game I'm in now, the industry I'm in, training and development, bit of business coaching, consulting. I talk to people at different stages for my job now. And just this morning I was chatting to, a senior exec who'd been in corporate for most of his life, and he's just coming to a crossroads, unhappy, unfulfilled, needing a challenge. And I think, to answer the question, it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, whether you're just out of school, university, or you've had a successful career. If you're not fulfilled, if it's not pressing the right buttons right now, time for a change, and don't be scared. So the practical tips, I suppose, I try and encourage people to think really carefully before they leap, especially nowadays in uncertain times. You don't want to put your family and house at risk. Try and, if you can, try and keep isolated the things that are precious to you. But having said that, now's the time. Take action, leap. Take a leap of faith. Try and work out what it is that might or could really inspire you and fulfill you. And there's a lot to be said for not doing the 9 to 5 if that really is making you unwell or depressed. Do something different. And actually, I find for myself and for people close to me and that I work with, if you do something that you're passionate about, you love to get up in the morning to do X, Y, Z, it's a revelation, and probably you'll end up making money as well.
Decision making can become flawed, but especially when you're making decisions on the go. How can people improve that decision making and not be caged by biases?
I think taking time out to really think through your strategies. There are plenty of models out there that you can follow in terms of either setting up a business or changing your strategic direction within an existing business. One of the best I find at the moment is keep it simple. I could share you a story about when I did sell my business, and won't say any names, but the company who bought my business sent every employee that I'd used to employ a 240-page strategic document for which they were expected to follow. And this was from my employees who'd been with me on a 17-year journey. They knew what they were doing. 240-page strategic document. It's too much, too complicated and unnecessary. So as a result of that, my recommendation is go for something, keep it simple. And there's a thing called strategy on a page. Look it up. You can put your business strategy down there, not only vision, purpose, values, but also market space, business growth indicators, and so on and so forth, just on one page. You can stick it on the wall, remind yourself the direction that you want to be going in.
Would you allow yourself to change that?
Absolutely, yeah. Essential. Anybody that sticks with a set strategy for months or years at a time is prone to failure. You've got to be adaptable, ready for change.
When you are helping now in your sort of after business, you are now helping other people become successful. Where does that need come from? Is it a personal fulfillment that you think it's the next chapter in your life? Or is it actually still entrepreneurially sort of very selfish in a good way?
A bit of both, actually. It started with the realization, having spent 12 years in the military, where I was in a leadership and managing of people business, as well as operationally what the military do, obviously. But and then a 15-year career in business, where again building a business, medium-sized business, 40 million turnover we had, employing 50 odd people on full salaries, and then 300 plus subcontractors at any one time. It was about leading and managing people, which took an awful lot of energy, almost sometimes to the detriment of your customers and clients. And partly the realization of my third career, training and development, and literally I work for myself. I have a few associates, but I don't employ anybody. And therefore, all I have to do is manage myself, which I've learned to do over the years, hopefully. And I can spend a lot of time, energy, and resources looking after, what I do for work, which is coaching, developing, training, inspiring people to reach their goals.
Any blind spots you think you see regularly? Sort of, I know everyone's path to success is different, but any blind spots you see people are not recognizing, even on senior positions, and making the mistake repeatedly when you're coaching them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, but I would say smaller businesses. The principle is often hugely ingrained in the operational delivery of the business, so much so that they lose perspective, they lose that, if you like, the helicopter view, and they're getting too stuck in the weeds of delivering and running their business. And I'm often getting them to pan out and see the big picture. I find a lot of people are scared to change direction, or they're scared to try something new, invest in something, particularly in uncertain times. And actually, for me, I think when times are uncertain, that's the time to invest, time to change, time to try new strategies.
Very interesting. When others are scared, you actually act, and it's very interesting. How do you define success? What does success mean to you? It could be professional and personal, or it could be one and the same thing. How do you define success?
Yeah, success for me is a combination of being happy within myself, reaching my strategic business and personal goals, and I think just the basics. Financial security is important, but probably more important for me is satisfaction in my life and what I'm doing and how I feel at any one time.
Any role models? Have you got anyone you look up to?
Yeah, there's a few obvious business role models, or not role models, people I look up to, but they're the usual candidates.
Yeah.
I'd probably go with my dad died when I was really young, and I was searching for somebody to replace him in many ways, and I found an explorer, an army officer actually, and explorer called John Blashford Snell, and he gave me my first opportunity and became a bit of a father figure. So his mantra is quite famous. John Blashford Snell, look him up, pith helmet, old school explorer, adventurer, expeditioner. He's done some amazing things charity-wise. So his two mantras is challenge yourself and do good for others. And what an incredible inspiration he is and is to me. So he would be my pick of a role model.
Interesting. How important is it to dream big, but at the same time then break it down into smaller chunks of actionable steps to take? And when should you lift up your head to look at the bigger picture and then go down back at it? How do you balance that? Especially when you built your business, say, that would be a great example.
Yeah, I think it's important to do both. I think that you need to dream big to start with, for sure. From a business perspective, it's always useful to have an exit policy. You know, what does exit look like? How long have you been doing this? What's the legacy? You know, I'm finding now a lot of, you know, I've done some work with the Institute of Directors, and I don't know if they're still espousing the old-fashioned values of the purpose of a business to make money, profit. I'm finding more and more business owners, directors and entrepreneurs are, yes, profit's important, but actually they're turning to purpose and the reason why and something more than just making profit. So yeah, come up, have big picture, big dreams, you know, work out how you're going to run your business, how you're going to deliver value to those working in it and shareholders, but try and find something that's extra. What is it that you're doing that's more important than just the entity of the business? Who are you serving? Who are you helping? What are you doing to protect something or somebody?
It's interesting. From your, we're looking back at, was there a moment where you felt really, really low? And how did you motivate yourself to come out of it, or you couldn't? What was there a particular memory that you really remember?
We had you get ups and downs running, you know, a medium-sized business. You get good days, bad. You get good years and bad years. I remember sort of mid-career, mid-business in my construction days. We took our eye off the ball. It was a fast-moving world of design, build, furniture. We took on a client who, unfortunately, was fraudulent. We were quite trusting. We got on and delivered at a £250,000 project for this gentleman somewhere in the Midlands. And before we knew it, the fast track development, we'd spent literally 220 odd grand delivering this project. And in those days, this was about 15, 20 years ago, clients wouldn't do electronic transfers. It was good old fashioned check writing. And I remember the client negotiating 5-stage payments over 7 weeks. And the first check of a small amount, 5 grand, cleared, and I relaxed. My financial management team, relaxed, and then we just got on, delivered the rest. And week 6.5, very close to finishing the project, we realised the next 4 checks had bounced. The bank hadn't let us know. My finance team hadn't let us know. The project manager on the job I employed didn't pick it up. And before we knew it, we delivered the project. He paid 5 grand for a £250,000 project. And so we ended up with a massive bad debt, which I fought for a bit with the courts, and then realised that I was just spending more and more money throwing at this issue. And eventually we gave up, not on the business, but we gave up on that bad debt and bad situation. It was bringing all of us down. It was the closest I've been to being upset and depressed. All that hard work and all that money, it was effectively a year's worth of revenue, profit for us, and we just had to fight it back. And I did have an interesting strategy that helped, if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So it was, we've been doing in London and the southeast £250,000 projects, and as a result of that bad debt, and this is a good story leading from a bad situation, I thought, how can we fast track? You know, we've got a year's worth of work to make up for this bad debt. So I simply turned to the team on management meeting and said, look, we've got to raise our game, bigger picture. We've got to go out and espouse the value that we can do £1 million projects, quadrupling our current aspirational target. And everyone took a deep intake of breath, but it seemed to me logical that for a design build, designing an office like this, fitting it out, furnishing it, putting the electrics in, air conditioning, etc. It doesn't matter whether it's 10,000 square feet or 100,000 square feet. It's just more numbers, bigger, more people delivering, the same complexity. And so it seemed to me sensible that you could just increase the aspiration and the size of projects that we were going for and being able to deliver to get us more quickly out of this trauma. And interestingly, as soon as we focused on £1 million projects, as opposed to £250,000, 5 weeks later, an opportunity landed on my desk. We bid for it, we won it, and we delivered it.
Wonderful.
And that was the turning point to create a multi-million pound business from what was a fairly ordinary small business. That then went on to do multi-million pound projects, up to 20 million pound projects. And then that led to my business being headhunted down by a FTSE 100, and somebody put an offer in for it a few years later.
Fantastic. Great story. Thanks for sharing. That's incredible. So again, I see that, just like you pivoted from working for somebody else, whilst working for yourself, you found, okay, I'm against this. How can I overcome this? And then you found a solution out of it, but in a positive way. This is very interesting. Where do you see yourself within the whole conversation around culture within the organization? So how important is it? How important is it to develop that, have a sense of, well, this is what our company culture is? Should there be one from the beginning, and should it be top down, or should that develop over the years, especially for somebody who's just starting out?
Yeah, that's a tough question, Mike. I go into offices and I see posters with the brand values on. But truthfully, if a company or employees don't actually believe in it, or it's just words to impress clients when they walk through reception, I think it's fake. I think a culture you can start with good, strong leadership and personal, demonstrable leadership. So an owner, the board, management team, and staff actually who truly believe in those values and espouse those values and show others coming in new to the business, then you can create a culture that's right and good for the business and all stakeholders. But as I say, it comes with a danger warning. I think just going for a brainstorming day and go, right, we believe in people, we have integrity, customer first, all of those kind of things. If you don't truly deliver on that personally and professionally, then it can fall flat on your face.
What is your legacy, or what would you like your legacy to be?
I would desperately like to ensure that I bring up my 3 children and to be good human beings and to be happy. I'd like to think that I've inspired a few people along the way and helped a few people, and that we make a few mistakes and here and there, but overall I've played life with a straight-ish bat.
Shall we touch upon your explorer side of things a little bit? Give me a little rundown of some of the highlights of that bit of your life.
I run the Penny Farthing Club as a bit of a passion business project, and I teach people to ride penny farthings, and over the years I've become reasonably competent. We did a charity ride. We raised £25,000 for a charity called Mary's Meals by riding from Land's End to John O'Groats, 874 miles this summer. And because that's quite a long and tough journey, these bikes, they're tall penny farthings, they have no brakes, no gears, no suspension, solid rubber tyres. Your bum really hurts. And to take my mind off riding the bike all that way, I learnt a few tricks. So riding really slowly and very fast, getting on the pegs at the back and freewheeling down hills, which is quite dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, a trick that not many people have acquired, but I had time to do it, is learning to ride the penny farthing bike without using your hands. So literally hands behind your back, ride the penny farthing nonchalantly through the streets of London or wherever. And Guinness World Records got hold of this fact and thought this would be quite an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
They challenged me to speed 10-kilometre distance, and the furthest you could go in 1 hour without touching the handlebars.
Wow.
So last week I tried all three and broke 3 Guinness World Records.
Wow, congratulations. So what were your records? Explain. What were
So
they?
fastest speed without hands on the penny farthing, 29.6 kilometres an hour average. 10k I cycled around a velodrome in Brighton, near where I live, in 23 minutes, 23 seconds. And the furthest distance in 1 hour without touching the handlebars, 26.0 kilometres.
Wow, that's impressive. That's so cool.
But that's not really, I mean, that's sort of more sport.
Yeah, sports,
It was fun. It was a fun challenge.
Yeah.
My passion is adventure, travel, and expeditions. So
Tell us a bit more about that.
yeah, to answer your question, look, all the way through my career, from age 13 to this year, I organise, lead adventurous expeditions to remote parts of the world. I'd like to say, 7 continents by land, sea, and air.
Wow.
So I've climbed lots of mountains. I've walked across deserts. I've hacked through jungles. I've done a few interesting missions to play golf at the North Pole, cricket at the South Pole. I climbed Everest a few times. You get the picture.
Wow. So now there's a lot to cover. So, this is a shortish interview. A couple of beats that are most exciting when you normally share your adventures with people.
Well, a lot of people like to hear the story of flying a car, the world's first road legal flying car, which was designed by a friend of mine in Dorset.
Wow.
This was about 10 years ago. Having been on an expedition with him to fly a motorised parachute above Everest, which was a Channel 4 documentary. We were sat in a tent and he said, Neil, I think I could design now the world's first road legal flying car. And being a pilot, it was too much to resist. I was hook, line and sinker. I said to Giles Cardozo, the designer, how much to make the prototype, to bring it to reality, to life. And he said, £250,000. And I had no clue where I was going to get that kind of money from. But I ended up shaking his hand, going, right, let's do it. And I went and found the money. We put an expedition together, a test voyage for this road legal flying car. And we left London in January 2009, and we arrived having crossed the Sahara Desert.
Wow.
46 days later in Timbuktu, which incidentally, in the Middle Ages was the busiest and most populated trading town in the world.
Oh, wow. Interesting. And how long was this flight?
So it was a fly drive journey.
Makes sense. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Because there are
Yeah.
times
Loads
where
of
you
people.
wanted to be on the deck.
Yeah.
But I did 10 odd flying elements of that journey, which was 10,000 kilometers, 8 countries, a couple of minefields, 2 stretches of water,
Wow.
and 2,000 kilometers of Sahara Desert.
Jeez, that's incredible.
But it was a fantastic journey, and one of my defining journeys, if you like, from an expedition and adventure perspective. And nobody fell out. We worked really hard, but everyone had a real dream, a real purpose to why they were there, contributing to taking this incredible machine from London to Timbuktu. Everyone bought into the dream. I just happened to be the test dummy pilot.
The guy who will do it.
Yeah.
Brilliant, love it. Now, that is very fascinating what you just told me, because being comfortable with taking on new challenges and then making sure you make them happen. there is a functional element to it, procedural element, raising money element, very much like a startup will. And some of the times they're starting up trying to make a product that might not have need in the market.
Yeah.
How do you see the whole product market fit? And a lot of people need that quite quickly to raise the next round or raise the first round.
Yeah.
But when there is no real product market fit, how do you think an entrepreneur should approach raising money?
I think the first thing you have to do is make sure that you 100% believe in what it is that you have, or your invention, or your service. And I think you then need to open your ears, because the market will tell you whether it's a good idea or not. You might think it's the next best thing since the proverbial sliced bread, but actually, if all the feedback coming back, and unless there's something weird or people just don't understand, which is rare, you've got to listen to feedback. But I think the most important thing, given that it's got half a chance, at least 50% chance of being a good idea and a workable patent or whatever it might be, service that you're bringing to market, you have to be passionate about it, and have a good strategic plan. And then thirdly, you just got to get out there and work hard and share the message. And where I have got very few qualifications, exam results. It's about being passionate. It's about showing people that you know the journey that you're going to take and need to take. All you need is some help, financial, to make it happen, and what the benefits are for what it is that you're bringing to the party, and who's it impacting.
And how do you fight? Well, when there are loads of elements of the unknown, and of course you are failing every small step as you go along. And how do you deal with failure? And how do you deal with, most importantly, negativity personally, and negativity from people around you, and sometimes from people who you like and love? How do you deal with that?
I think, first of all, I'm naturally an optimistic person, so I don't necessarily like to be surrounded by negative people, but life deals you a few negative people. Sometimes those negative people can be helpful, because they will be the ones that spot the problems. If you go off blindly with all your life savings down a particular path, and there's not somebody who's going, come on, wait, hold on, just take your time, maybe do something a bit different. You've got to listen to people. Try and be listening to positive people with a good experience or good, good skill sets, rather than negative people with that is my preference. But, don't be put off. If you're passionate and you have a good plan, and you're willing to work for it, there's no stopping you.
Luck, destiny, or hard work? What would you?
Luck, destiny, or hard work? Well, I'd pick a combination of all three.
Okay.
But if I had to pick one, hard work.
Okay, good answer. Okay, now, how would you go about recruiting people when you were running your business? Was it looking for skill, or were you looking for, the aptitude? What were you recruiting for?
Aptitude.
Personality or skill?
Again, a combination of the both. But if you asked me to pick one, I'd go definitely attitude.
Yep.
Or personality, or aptitude. I think was your word. It obviously depends. You wouldn't want to pick a really positive person and put them in NASA if they didn't know the science codes or whatever. You'd want somebody with a skill set to press the right buttons. But that being said, I would always recruit on good attitude over skills.
Skills, interesting. Now, growing your business or trying to fund a crazy idea like yours, which you did, and it's not a crazy idea anymore. Flying cars is now potentially a reality in the next 10, 15 years. How do you recommend, are you personally against growing by debt, using debt to grow?
I'm not against it.
No? Okay.
What I would say is that I'm slightly old-fashioned in so much that I appreciate you can grow potentially much faster with debt, other people's money, but actually I am a bit old-fashioned. I prefer to trade into profit, to only buy something if I can afford it. Slightly old-fashioned, I admit, but it's just a slightly safer, more prudent way of doing it, and therefore I sleep better at night knowing it. If there is any risk, it's my expense, not somebody else's or your money. And so I prefer to grow organically as a business and a service, but I do appreciate that there are many different types of businesses out there that have different financial needs.
Would you always be an explorer?
I think exploration is a mindset. Yes, I happen to put on rough clothes and a backpack and go properly exploring in my definition of it, but I'm interpreting your question in a slightly biased way. For me, exploring is about being adventurous. You can be adventurous in the Himalayas or the North Pole, South Pole, or you could be adventurous in your life, in your business, and the way you conduct your existence. And so I always try and encourage people to be adventurous. I think it's important. That comes with taking some risk and pushing the boundaries, taking yourself out of your comfort zone, and challenging yourself, like my mentor, John Blatchford Snell.
Who is a good leader, as per your definition?
I think for me, leadership is about somebody who has a vision for the future and is bold enough to find a right path for others to follow.
Can anyone be a good leader or learn to be a good leader?
Yes, I think leadership is something that can be learnt, and you can improve your leadership incrementally. I think there are some natural leaders out there, but nobody is incapable of being a leader. And I think it's really important actually in business that you don't have leadership just from the top. There are good leadership and people in leadership positions throughout your business, all the way down to the ground floor. Really critical.
Was there a particular moment where you had to show leadership, where you felt, oh God, but you had to do it, and so that others around you were believing in you and kept going?
Yeah, there's a few occasions where you think I'd rather not be the leader, but actually I think for me leadership is a privilege, and it comes with responsibility. And I think the important things for being a good leader is about delegation, it's about encouragement, it's about providing support, and bringing others through on the journey. But I remember, I think the thing that springs suddenly into my mind is when I was a young officer in the Marines, and I had a 30-odd Royal Marine commandos in front of me, and the sergeant, I was in training, the sergeant pulled me up to the front of the class and said, Lieutenant Laughton, I'd like you to give a 3-minute lecture on the sex life of the inside of a ping pong ball. And at that moment, I wanted the ping pong ball to swallow me up because I had no clue what the hell I was going to talk about for 3 minutes in front of 34 hairy-ass Marines. Somehow I got through it.
It's incredible.
There are some times when you'd rather not be the leader, you'd like to be in the back row. But actually, I'll come back to my original answer. It's a privilege to be a leader, and to do it well is a skill that needs some qualities, good qualities, but also experience. And people can train themselves and be trained to lead.
How do you define a brave hustler?
Brave hustler for me is somebody who is on their path, and they come across the inevitable trips, hazards and obstacles in the road of travel, but won't be deflected from their mission to succeed. Will take those difficulties, obstacles and problems in their stride, never give up, complete determination, a little bit of resilience, and to see through to a successful outcome.
That was a great answer.